Okay. Well, thank you so much, James, for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. We have James with AYSO United. He is the Director of Youth Affiliates with us today. Welcome, James.
Thanks, Laura. Appreciate you having me and hope everyone's doing well today on a happy Thursday to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. We figured we would just start off by asking you just a little bit about yourself and your journey in the soccer world, or if you came from a different industry before, soccer, if you would just share a little bit about yourself and your journey and how you came to be with AYSO United.
Sure, absolutely. Well, appreciate the opportunity again. Happy Thursday, everyone. James Janos, Director of Youth Affiliates for AYSO United. Briefly about myself, soccer has been in my background since I was a little kid. I actually played AYSO, so I'm an alumni of the organization when I was 6 years old. My dad signed me up in AYSO. AYSO predominantly has been a recreational-based soccer organization. It's one of the oldest youth soccer organizations in the U.S., sanctioned under the U.S. Soccer Federation. So that was my first start in soccer. I coached, volunteered, been a part of AYSO for many years. When I was coaching into my late teens, early 20s, I had an opportunity to coach club in high school. So being around in the soccer industry, I took the opportunity to expand out into outside of AYSO. While I was in coaching, I always knew sports was going to be my background. Didn't know exactly what I was going to be doing in the sports industry. Got my undergrad in political science. So I actually do think if you're in the soccer industry, you know how well politics and soccer and youth sports work. So my background, I think I'm perfect for the industry that I am in. But once I got my undergrad degree, I knew I always wanted to work in sports. So I actually pursued my master's degree in sports management at Long Beach State. And just got to do a ton of different opportunities, worked for USA Water Polo, college athletics, got to be in a couple of Division I athletic departments at the time. Got to work for some smaller colleges as well to see how the difference between a Division I versus a junior college and a private college as well. And I got to work in soccer. That was my first internship for Cal South Soccer Association. So one of 55 state associations under USYS. They're a competitor to AYSO in a way, but they're also a youth governing body under US Soccer. So while I was at Cal South for a couple of years, I got to do programs, events, tournaments, many competitions, work on membership sales and growth on the programming side. And then, about 5+ years ago, an opportunity opened up at AYSO. Again, it almost completes the full circle journey of me when I was 6 years old to come back and be a part of something. And to be a part of something at AYSO, it wasn't just working for AYSO. It was about this program here that I represent on a daily basis, AYSO United. It's a travel club soccer program that's nationwide. I'm employee number 2. At the time when I started in 2016, we had 0 players. We're on our way to have 7,000 players nationwide. And it's been an exciting journey, part of AYSO and AYSO United. So it almost completes that circle journey for me as a youth and now as a young professional in the industry as well.
Wow, that's quite a journey. You've been a lot of things in a lot of places, which I feel like is almost the path to a lot of folks in our industry, right? You end up doing a whole lot of different jobs in the sports industry before really, finding your niche, or even when you find it, there's always moving parts. So it's really interesting to hear your journey, and you really have seen all sides of it. It's really interesting.
And within AYSO United, I've been able to travel the country and see youth soccer from a different perspective as well. Being in Southern California, all I knew was Southern California soccer. Working at Cal South, I got to expand up into Bakersfield, Central California, down to the border as well. And I got to learn each kind of community is a little unique and different. And then now transferring into this role where it's now a national role, I get to travel to Michigan, New Mexico, where I was a couple of weeks ago, Alabama, East Coast, New York, as well, to see the different communities and how the programs operate. And they are a little unique and different. So it's a different perspective that I've gotten to gain in a number of years in the role as well. And I get more of appreciation for the great work that people do in their communities for the athletes and to provide families opportunity and a gateway for kids to do something that they want to do.
Absolutely. That's hits the nail on the head. So tell us a little bit more about AYSO United. I know that you're based in California, but you have other, I'm going to say, branches or affiliates of it around the country. Can you expand a little bit more on where those are at and a little bit more
Absolutely.
about
Yep.
each of those?
Absolutely. So we have 18 locations across the US. California is our sweet spot. When I say sweet spot, it's where we have a lot of members that are working. About half of our members are either in Southern California or in Northern California, but we go all the way out to the Hawaiian Islands. So that's everyone's favorite club to go visit, the club in Hawaii. Lawrence and the team out there do a fantastic job building that program up. We have programs as we start going east, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, where I was, Texas, Alabama, Michigan, Iowa, the Midwest. We're also on the East Coast. We have programs in Maryland and in New Jersey as well. So we have a wide range and a wide scope of our program across the country. You know, our guiding kind of principle is our AYSO philosophies that we carry. With AYSO being predominantly a recreational based soccer program, like I mentioned, one of our big tenets is 50% play, and we actually carry that. We think when we first came to the marketplace, we consider ourselves to be a differentiator by guaranteeing kids at least 50% playing time. In our eyes, that's the only way for players to develop is on-field experiences. It doesn't benefit the player developmentally to sit on the sideline and watch other kids play. Yes, training is important, but gameplay is also important, especially at the young age groups for kids to develop. They have to be on the field to play. So that's something we stand by nationwide, and that's something our great staff does, and our DOCs and our club directors do kind of uphold those principles. And it's one of the exciting parts for myself when I get to go out and see our clubs play. I do get to see every kid play because that's, again, one of our tenets of our organization. So I get to see the kids do well and excel on and off the field.
That's a really refreshing philosophy. It's interesting to hear, an elite soccer group like yourself, holding true to that, because it's not always the case. And, I'd be interested to know how parents and coaches feel about that when they hear that. Are they excited about it and open to it? Do they think it's so crazy as compared to the other philosophies that are out there?
Yeah, it's a great question there. I mean, I would say from our coaches, they have to buy in from that. Our technical staff, our technical director, has a great kind of message that shares to everyone that wants to be a part of the club. And if you want to be a coach, a part of our club, if it's a championship game and there's a kid sitting on your bench who needs to get the next 5 to 10 minutes on the field, if you're not confident to put that kid onto that field, no matter if you're down or if you're up, then you're not in it for the right reasons. And again, that's something we really want to preach from our directors to our coaches and obviously to our players. No matter if it's a championship game or if it's just a friendly game, it really is about player development at our vantage point. So from our coaching staff, we have had some sort of issues with that, trying to educate them and obviously educate the parents as well on that one. I think by all in all, most of our feedback from parents is they love it. We have a lot of kids that actually come from clubs where they've been paying high fees, and the kid will go to a tournament on a weekend, maybe get 10 minutes of playing time, and they want to go see, and they see maybe their friends playing for the United Club, and everyone's getting a chance to get rotated in, rotated out. So it's made us, I guess, a differentiator in the marketplace where parents want to be a part of that, and they want to be a part of that experience for their kids. Because I do think for anyone that has children, you want your kids to have a smile on and off the field. And the only way to do it is by playing. Sitting on the bench is, even if your team wins, that's not going to make your kid happy, I don't think, from the perspective. So it is an ongoing education piece. But I think the first couple of years there were challenges, but I think as we've evolved now into our 6th year, it's no longer a question about it for many of our staffs, because our principles, our philosophies are there. And again, that message of, in the championship game, if you're not willing to put that kid who needs to get 10 minutes on the field in the championship game, then you're not the right fit for us. And it's okay to go to the club next door if that's what you feel is best in interest, but that's not what we kind of uphold and believe in.
James, I have a question. I love this philosophy, and my brain's spinning in a million different directions. But so for a player to be on one of your teams, do they have to try out and qualify? So in other words, you already are vetting their level of play, which is why you can then take your expertise in coaching and play every kid and develop them?
Yes,
Yes.
great question,
Yeah.
Shane. Yep, and the answer is yes. Our players right now, this is actually our busy tryout season nationally. Within just the last 2 months, we've had over 1,000 kids just express interest in trying out for AYSO United, and that's nationwide. So yeah, right now, every state is a little different how they operate in their tryouts. Some states have a tryout window where you can only advertise for a certain time frame. Some actually do, like in California, where we've been based out of, we actually kind of, again, not to be differentiators, but we've created this idea of open training, which is kind of like an open tryout where we have established teams. If kids want to come out, they actually get invited out to come to the practice and train with the team. One, to make sure developmentally it's what they want and it's a good fit for the team and for the kid themselves, because I think that's something that, yes, on a Saturday morning, if it's a tryout at 8 a.m., I mean, as a kid myself, when I used to try out, sometimes I woke up on the wrong side of bed, so I may not perform at my best at the tryout. However, if a coach invites me out on a Tuesday and a Thursday and I get to train with the team, I may know in my head and my heart, is this the right fit for me? Same thing with the coach and the other players that we play with. Now, again, in California, that seems to work where the tryout rules are a little bit looser, but in some states, where there is a tryout window, yes, kids do have to try out and they're identified and they have to make sure they're at that level of ability to play in that program. And again, I always tell our coaches and our directors that if a kid wants to commit to the club, you should commit to that. You should commit to that family as well. And again, it's a 12 months soccer journey. Don't just think about it right now. Is this kid going to make my team better? Because as a coach, as a former coach myself, you want to develop that kid for months on end, weeks on end, to develop them. In 12 months time, they could be a phenomenal player if you give them that opportunity, because kids develop at a different age group, different levels. They all develop differently, and you have to give them that opportunity as well. But we do have a tryout process within AYSO United.
Super refreshing. I know, just as a parent, I mean, like, to be able to invest in a club like that or an organization like that, where, you know, I guess I'm just going to say, you're getting your true values worth, right? Like your core culture is there, your values are there, but then to be able to take the level of play and build upon it and guarantee that these kids get that play. I mean, you know as well as I do, like, when you're under the pressure in a game, everybody's reacting different. So it's so important to be able to do that and grow versus just be trained and coached on, you know, the sidelines. So this is awesome. This is really,
no, I appreciate it. Yeah, and the open training concept, that's been a tough challenge to get a lot of our clubs and affiliates to buy into that, because a lot of people are used to the old mantra: tryouts are Saturday 8 a.m. have all the kids show up, which again, it's something that's just beholden of the state association, what their rules are. But the open training concept, we really do believe in, because a kid can come out and a couple times, and maybe they come out for 1 week, and as a coach, I may say, "Okay, come out next week as well. No cost. Just keep coming training out for us, because there might be a fit there, and it may not be, and that's okay if that happens." Because there are some times, and I know from being a former athlete myself, I may get put on a team. I may not like the teammates I want to be in, so why would I want to stick that out for for weeks, months on end? So it's got to be a right fit for everybody. And I think if you can kind of create that environment, again, the big key word we've been trying is create that environment for players to come on in and develop. That's kind of the definition and the game changer for it, is create that environment for players to come in, learn, develop, and have fun doing it. And that's what we kind of been practicing and preaching as we go along this journey.
That's James. That's great.
Kind of
As
like
a father, yeah, as a father to young girls that are playing soccer, it's refreshing to hear for sure. And so I'm a big believer of, you learn a lot of life lessons when you play sports, team sports specifically.
Sure.
You mentioned it a couple times now that you played and grew up in the game. Question I have is, what are some life lessons you learned as a kid playing sports that you're now applying to your role in this business and as you grow in the industry?
Sure, great question. I would say, it's actually funny. I have this, it's funny. Every school project I did as a kid was geared to sports. And I remembered in high school, my senior year, they had us do a senior project. It had to be something unique, different to yourself. And what I did as a coach, I was coaching kids in high school, volunteering my time to do it. I created my senior project about, the benefits of playing youth sports. And, I could have made, I think I did like 25 pages. I probably could have done 100 pages if I wanted to, because there's so many intangible benefits to youth sports. Some of the things that I can relate to now into the professional world is my, my leadership qualities that I got. I think as a kid growing up, again, it's hard to see on a camera, but if you see me in person, I'm a pretty tall guy, 6'2", 6'3". So I think when you're the tall kid, you're always expected to be the leader for some reason. Again, that doesn't mean it's the right way in my opinion, but it was something I was always pointed at as being the leader of the team. And that's something I kind of took the onus on as a former athlete, is lead with not just vocally, but lead by example. Be on time, be early, set the tone. Jogging, again, I actually was a baseball player as well, so jogging off the field was just as important as jogging to your position. Little things like that. I think the intangibles are such a key trait for it. Responsibility, I guess, is another thing, because again, as a kid, I took my craft seriously as an athlete. Soccer for me was more of a fun sport for me. Baseball actually was my passion as a kid growing up. It was the sport I actually excelled better as an athlete. It comes from my dad's background, as he played college ball and had some opportunities to play pro. So that's where it came into. And I will say the responsibility was on yourself, because my dad used to always say, if you wanted to be, the best athlete you could be, it has to take a little bit of yourself on you. You have to take the onus on yourself to be as good of an athlete as you can. You can't just let it come to you. You have to take it. Whereas if you actually look at my dad's stature, he's a lot shorter than me. I have my mom's genes. So what I learned from him, though, was he had this mentality of scrappy. His nickname was the Scrapper. So he was a scrappy player. So again, different in stature, but he took the responsibility to work hard for everything he did. And I kind of parlayed that into everything I do in the professional world. So you definitely responsibility, leaderships. And again, as I also wanted to be an athlete and a coach, a lifelong learner. I mean, that's something I do. And I know me and Laura spoke about, a couple of months ago. For myself, I've gotten to attend event conferences, connect, teams conference. I know there's the national scale conferences, but I got to learn that industry as well. Because I think for myself, not really familiar with that side of the industry, I want to be learning constantly in it, because there's something I can do and maybe enhance a certain tournament or enhance one of our clubs and enhance something that I can always make myself learning. I think as an athlete, I always wanted to learn. And as a coach, I always wanted to learn from others. I get this question all the time. Who are some key influential coaches in your life? And to be honest, I actually take the bits and pieces from great coaches I've never met. John Wooden, Phil Jackson, Joe Torre, Bill Belichick. There's little things I can take from them and enhance that into my career. And that's something I think as a lifelong learner, you always want to learn from others and key qualities that you're looking for in individuals.
Oh, that was
Awesome.
very
great.
I feel like I got to step up my game a little bit more now too. That was very inspirational. It was very coach-like. I loved it. We'll talk about learning.
Hire James.
Right? In talking about learning and, leading by example, I know that we've had some conversations before about COVID and the impact, that it's had on your club, and not just in California, but in other areas. But with half of your members in California, given, the state of, the sports industry over the last year, how were you able to keep your athletes engaged? What are some of the things that you did in order to, continue to provide that value that we've spoken about and keep the athletes, engaged, interested on the field?
Sure, absolutely. Well, when this first happened in March, like everyone else, I can imagine confusion, not sure where to go. In the back of my mind, I had this, we're going to be in this for a while. So and again, the first week, I shared with my boss, I put 10 ideas together. I'm one of those kind of guys. I have a million bad ideas, but there's one that's going to make $1 million. That's kind of my my mantra. So I remember I put together 10 ideas. I put together let's create, because I knew as this pandemic was going to shift, I didn't know how full teams got together. So I created an idea of a 4v4 soccer tournament where when it was safe to do it maybe in smaller groups, it's 4v4. I created a virtual kind of learning component. I created a virtual running event, which we did end up doing. So I created a long list of things just to get kids engaged and try to get our families engaged. And as the time went long, and again, the benefit of us with AYSO United, we are so geographically spread out. So some of our states that did open up these ideas we had with like the virtual learning, our DOCs and our club directors did a fantastic job engaging our players on such platforms like Zoom, Google Classroom as well as what we used as well to create our kids an environment to learn. We did it free of charge. There was no additional cost for that. Now, some of our staff did do private trainings. They were looking anything they can to do it. But it's a testament to our staff to maintain. We only lost about 18% of our membership in the COVID timeframe, and that includes California being shut down from games for about 14, 15 months. New Mexico, Hawaii, the same kind of boat. But it's a testament to our staff for providing some sort of opportunities for our players. The virtual run was a fantastic event. It was our largest attended event within the 6 years that I've been involved on the event side for AYSO United. We had 350 families and parents engaged from across the country. We also were able to engage our sponsors, New Balance, as you can see on my chest here. They provided shirts for all attendees. We have a national awards partner, got them engaged. Because again, a lot of these companies were in the same boat as everyone else. They're just sitting there waiting for something to happen, which nothing's gonna happen. So I said, let's just create this virtual running event. Kids from Hawaii to Alabama can just sign up and get a medal and a shirt and get them going and do some social media activities. Because again, during that time, what happens on the weekends, parents are always sharing their kids playing soccer, playing games. So the idea was, let's get them sharing pictures of them in their shirts, showing off their United badge in a time when most people were not doing that kind of stuff. So I was trying to get that engagement going as well. But the Google Classroom was a hit as well. We're doing once a week, sessions like this that we're doing, providing different variations of topics. We also started incorporating exercising as well. The benefit to, one of the good things in California, the state did allow us to do practices around June time, which got kids out of the from behind the screen and in that closed environment back on a field in a bubble kind of environment, because it was about the physical distance measurements. An interesting thing that I found going back out to the fields once a month, checking in and seeing how the psyche and the mindset was around November time. I remember thinking, these kids have been in these kind of just practice only environments, no games. In California, we weren't allowed to do games. I was thinking 6 months, these kids, these parents probably are dying for games and competitions. In the back of our mind, one of the other 10 ideas we had was secure a facility in a state that was open to have games. Not what ideally we wanted to do, but we did have that as a backup plan as well. The interesting thing is I went out in November to one of our clubs in Southern California. I talked to about a dozen parents and coaches and even a few kids. They actually were okay with this environment, just being out there and being outside. It was better than being trapped and being home. So them just getting out, doing physical exercising was good enough for them, which was surprising. I thought it'd be the opposite, where people were just dying and hungry for games. Now, I will say around January, the thirst did wear off a little bit. I think people got in the holiday season, and anyways, our state did open up early March for California kids to resume games. And there was a negative effect to that. We saw a lot more injuries because of that. I'm sure if anyone else had that environment in their states as well. One thing we did notice in our states that did open up pretty quickly, in maybe like the South and those kind of marketplaces, when they had tryouts, kids have been sitting out for 8-10 weeks to then all of a sudden flip a switch and do a tryout. There were some, concerns and for the physical and the social side of it, because they've been trapped in an environment, and then flipping the switch and having them all of a sudden be 100% on it was a little challenging and difficult for these athletes to see. But as of now, where we stand, every one of our clubs is on the field, every state's open, kids are back on the field and kind of enjoying themselves. And again, when I was in New Mexico a couple of weeks ago, that was our second to last club that hasn't returned to the field. And it was just exciting to see kids on the field and getting the energy and the positive vibes from them and the families. And it's exciting to see that happen nationally as well.
Oh, that must feel so good just to have everybody on the field and everybody back and things starting to get back to normal. And so as you're moving forward, as you're a planner, you've run tournaments in the past, you've done every nook and cranny of this business. How has your planning and that process changed now that you've been through something like COVID? Obviously, hopefully something like this never happens again, but how has that impacted your planning and how you're managing processes in multiple states moving forward?
Sure, absolutely. Well, from the planning aspect, it just within the last couple of weeks, I've started to now fixate on the future. It's been a while to actually do that because everything seemed to be day by day, hour by hour. So it's actually refreshing. I've also had a call last week just kind of talking about now event planning for the summer. We used to do 2 in-person events every 6 months, kind of, I call them crown jewel events, where we have our directors come in, meet with us. Again, more of the camaraderie and the social side of it as well, but also to share any updates and things like that. Well, it's been a challenge to obviously do that. I mean, not challenge, because I do think what we're doing here, it's been actually easier to communicate with others because of the ability to hop on a video call or hop on a phone call a lot more frequently than maybe it was prior to COVID. But as things have shifted now, we're starting to look into this future of what's it going to look like next summer. Now, right now, it's going to be probably very few restrictions, if any, but what kind of environment do we want to create for our attendees, for our athletes, for our coaches, staff, for our families as they come in there? That's kind of the big key thing that we've been looking at. We've actually been looking to see what other competitors are doing. I'm a big believer in one of my favorite Steve Jobs quotes from his past was, "Good artists copy, great artists steal." That's something that I look to do as well. See what the competition is doing, see how I can tweak it, enhance it, or make it a little bit better in a way to see what's going on. I think the large scale tournaments are starting to happen in a way, but they are a little scaled back in here in California a little bit differently. Less games and more spacing onto the fields as well. Maybe changing the end times. I remember back in the day when we used to do Cal South tournaments, you had 25, 30 fields going at once. Every game started at 8 a.m. Well, what happened there was a bottleneck of congestion. You're going to have to now stagger your times a little bit, 8, 8:15, 8:30, maybe reverse, do a longer break in between games as well to kind of keep things clean and sanitize as well. So yeah, as we're starting to look into the future here, we are looking at trying to see what others are doing and trying to enhance things and make it a little bit more fine-tuned to the environment that we want and we expect. I think as we are eyeing at next summer, we're looking at doing an identification soccer camp, a residential component where it's going to be totally insular bubble type environment at a professional facility down in San Diego, where it's going to be just select number of coaches, select number of athletes, and they're going to be housed in and they're going to be separated from the outside world. We're not going to really expose them to the outside world because I think that's something that families are probably going to look for their kids, and they're going to be in an environment where they're learning, competing, and having fun with kids from across the country in that kind of environment as well. So, and then with our coaching staff, we are hopeful in January the United Soccer Coaches Convention goes through, because that's been something we've had a big, large presence there. About 50, 60 of our staffers converge there and have meetings. We get to learn from the U.S. soccer instructors they have there, United Soccer Coaches instructors as well. So we're hoping that can go through. If it doesn't, we'll probably create next summer a insulary similar type of event where it's going to be controlled and managed by us, so we know who's coming in, who's coming out, set the scheduling ourselves so we can kind of plan it how we want to do it and kind of make it more of a controlled environment. I think that's kind of the big thing we've been looking at, is trying to control things as much as you can in this kind of uncontrollable world we've been living in. I think that's something that we're looking to do for AYSO United as we move forward into 2021 and 2022.
Interesting. I've been wondering, how people are going to be changing coming out of this, whether it's staggering game times or guaranteeing fewer games per tournament, or, you know, having more locations instead of maybe just one, so that you can continue to have a certain number of game guarantee and have so many games going on. So it's interesting to hear, you know, your perspective and how you're going about doing it. I mean, there's probably no right or wrong way to do it. It's just going to be whatever works best for everybody. And, you know, let's hope it all works.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like you said, there's no like handbook, blueprint. This is how it's done. There really isn't. I mean, and we're one of those that we're okay with trying something that doesn't work, scrap it. It's okay. It is okay, as long as, you know, you create a fun, safe environment that people want to come and be a part of. I mean, the big thing, when it's been a while since I've actually planned events from our side, but I'm trying to think of the thing I used to come up, I had a philosophy. It was, you know, actually, anyways, meet someone new, meet one person new, learn one thing new, and have a good time. I think if you check all those 3 boxes, to me, it's a successful event. Meet someone new, you know, learn something new and have fun. That to me is a successful event, regardless of what it is, whether it's a soccer tournament, whether it's an education series. To me, that's the epitome of putting on a great event. I think we can control that as well as we go through this. And like you said, there is no handbook. This is how you do it, because we really don't know going forward how it will look like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If there's anything that this has all taught us, is that we can't control everything, but
Yeah,
I love your philosophy. And absolutely, if every event I went to, I met someone new, learned something new, and had a good time, I'd be all for it every single time. I'd be a repeat customer. I think that's great. So what are the future plans for AYSO United? I mean, obviously you've shared hopes for some, you know, potential in-person events for your staff and these ID camps. What are the 5-year plans, if you have 5-year plans for AYSO United? Do you hope to be in a lot more states? Do you hope to, you know, have X number of more athletes, or do you like to stay where you guys are at right now and really hone that in?
Sure. I mean, well, I mean, we are limited. I mean, the organization we've been a part of, you know, like most organizations, you know, we did have a downsizing, unfortunately, to COVID. But as we start to rebuild, start the planning. Now, what do we want to look like? Because obviously, if you asked me 5-6 years ago, would we plan for? No one planned for a pandemic. No one did. If they did, they would be a lottery winners and very rich at this point. But yeah, as we go through these next 5 years, it's building back the player base. We were on track in around March of 2020 to have 7,000 players. We were about 200 players, just short of that. And as we went to this past year, which again, California, New Mexico, Hawaii, states that were shut down, we still had about 5,400 players that signed up for AYSO, which is still great during a pandemic. In our vantage point, as we have shifted now, we want to get to that 7,000, which we were on track for. Right now, we've crossed over 4,000 players registered, and it's every day it's adding more and more with trials ongoing. Excuse me. With those 7,000 players that we have in there, it's all in investing on them first, because the kids have been the ones most impacted by this. Yes, us as adults and coaches and directors, yes, we've been impacted in a way, but really we got to focus all of our energy on the kids first and foremost, making sure they're having a great experience being a part of the club. So if we do look to expand, yes, it's always something that's on my radar. Just last week had interest calls from Wyoming and other states as well. So trying to learn the demographics of there and the communities there. I think for AYSO United, we are very selective in where we go, mostly because we want to make sure, again, culturally, it's a right fit for us as well. Because again, we do have, like I touched on earlier, these philosophies and these things that we don't want to compromise just for the sake of throwing a new club into a community. We are looking at potentially an international affiliate as well, coming on radar in the next probably 6 months, I would say, maybe sooner. AYSO has a large presence in the Caribbean, so we are looking at a group that wants to be a part of the AYSO United family. They believe into the philosophies and everything we do there. Getting them ingrained and cultured on the AYSO United philosophies would be a fantastic environment there. So yeah, it is something that's on our radar. But as we get back to the 5-year plan, it's focusing on the players, focusing on the player development, focusing on our coaching education as well. You know, you can't make great players without great coaches, and you can't keep great coaches without great players. So we definitely want to focus all of our energy on them, providing training, providing opportunities for our players to go play either at the college level or professional environment. But again, it's okay if players don't have the aspirations. We want to make sure the environment is important for them, and they're enjoying themselves within our club. So there's nothing really specifically in these next 5 years, just because we're coming out of the pandemic. But getting back to our touch points or our events is going to be next step, so we can re-engage everyone, get everyone on the same philosophy and messaging to focus all their energy on the players, getting them through what they just went through and getting them back on the field in a safe manner. And that was, honestly, priority one. When I think 2 or 3 weeks settled in, our number one priority nationally was get kids back on a field safely as soon as possible. Safely and soonest as possible was the key. Safe first, soonest second. So if you couldn't safely do it, wait, just keep waiting. So I think as now we've come through this, we want to make sure all of our energy is focused on the players and our coaching staff to get them back to work. And again, if anyone does have interest in AYSO United, I'm more than willing to have a conversation and figure out if it's a good fit culturally. And it's okay if it's not, because we've had those conversations, those tough conversations with people who want to be a part of it, but they don't believe in our philosophies and our cultures, and that's not something we want to compromise our values to just to grow for the sake of it. We really have to make sure they buy in and believe in what we do.
I really respect that. I think that's great. Shannon and Jason, I've been dominating with all my questions. I'm so interested. I like to learn too. So do you guys have anything you want to ask before I keep going?
I don't. You have done a fantastic job, you and James, about this is an amazing call. I swear to God, I'm just sitting here going, it's just a breath of fresh air you're kind of speaking our language with just what's, the core competencies and what's important to you and in your organization, and that you're not going to sacrifice any of those for, I guess you didn't say it this way, but I will. You're not going to sacrifice that for the dollar, right? Your growth isn't going to come financially by letting go of the whole design of what your organization is. So I just have so much respect for everything you're saying. And I feel like if we were to sit in a room and talk, we'd be just praising each other, because I think it's awesome.
No, I appreciate it, Shannon. And I would say, if you speak to any of our club directors, a big mantra we've had since day one, and it's quality over quantity. We want quality individuals, quality teams, quality players. We always tell our directors that, do you really need that extra team if it's not the right fit culturally? And I think that's something that in this vantage point, I think for a lot of youth sports or entities right now, getting back on your feet is important. Yes, it is, but we want to make sure people that believe in the philosophies get back into the right environment for us to be successful.
It's funny because when Laura and I we're creating Pellucid, one of the most important things to us as business owners was that we get to choose who we work with, right? Because it's the exact same thing. We want to have fun every day. We want to show up and work hard, but we want to do it with people that are like-minded and that we can really make a difference with, and that, vice versa. So I just love your whole philosophy. It's been great listening, and thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you, Shannon. Appreciate it. Thank you for all the work you do as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I echo everything Shannon has said. And really just, I think there's probably people that are going to be watching this that have kids. And so you've talked a lot about your mantra in regards to the playing time and what you guys talk about internally. What are some of the things that you hit on with the kids in the program? Are there some staple items that you try to make sure they learn and understand while going through the system?
You mean in a way of a technical ability? Is there talking that aspect? That's a good question, but I want to make sure I have it right.
Oh, sure. No, I guess more in a growth mindset, more yes, I guess it can relate on the field, but not technical, more of things that you try to instill with them, if it be confidence or just life skills or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have our technical director for AYSO United. He created a bunch of core values that we ask our players to believe in. Actually, I just want to make sure I had them right, but enjoyment is one of them. We want to make sure players enjoy the game. They enjoy being a part of the team, because if they don't have enjoyment, it's not going to be a good environment. Education, again, I think I'm talking about myself personally, but you have to be willing to educate yourself and learn. Commitment. You have to be able to be committed to a team. You committed to your teammates, committed to your club, because again, if you don't have that commitment, you're not going to be able to make it successfully in United. Number 4 is ownership. Players have to own it. And it goes back to what I talked about as a kid, is the responsibility side of it. You have to be able to have ownership. I know at the younger age groups, it's hard to teach that for 8, 9, 10-year-olds. But again, if you can instill that value into them as they get older, they'll be, great people after they're done playing soccer. And a lot of our core values were kind of driven on that, not so much on field, but off the field as well, because that's what makes representations of the organization. The 2 other core values we have is, integrity. We want players to be able to do the right thing when no one's looking. That's something we do want our players to kind of, preach that, because again, I think if you're and I learned this, as a young kid myself, and even in school, you only get one kind of integrity. You can't justify it. You can't sell yourself on that one, because you won't get it back if you lose your integrity. So that's something we do want to teach our kids. And then the last one is holistic. We want to have a holistic mindset for our players when they come into training, and really embrace and embody that kind of thing. So that's something that we do stress. And we actually, with our core values, that's something we do with any coach that does come in. Our technical director, Paul, he actually goes through the standards and expectations, and he delivers these core values to these coaches that hopefully they share and they believe in these to the athletes themselves. And again, that probably speaks to more of the off the field stuff as well, because if you have the enjoyment, education, commitment, ownership, integrity, and the holistic mindset, it's going to make for a successful athlete and a successful person as well. And that's what we want for all of our kids individually.
Awesome. Yeah, you answered it perfectly. That's great.
No, thanks, Jason.
I think what I love about your organization is it's like the full circle, right? And as I'm sitting here listening, and we're talking about the athlete and the focus and just the enjoyment and the core values, and I'm thinking about the coaches that you're hiring, and how, the organizations you're bringing in really you have to feel that they buy into that, and that they're a part of that. Perfect example is you take a little child and you watch them play school. Who do they mimic? They mimic their teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I always know if my kids have great teachers, or if they have screamers or yellers, right? Because the little girls are in there doing. Same thing with the athletes. I mean, they're going to gain their life lessons by these people, these important people they spend a lot of their time with. So I love the whole wheel that you've developed to support every philosophy you have. And I think that's the key to your success, is
Absolutely.
that entire wheel.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah. And being, and going to fields, like you said, the screamer and the like, we actually been trying to change even game environments, which is difficult. I mean, even myself, and I get excited at a soccer game, but we actually want to model ourselves that the game is for the kids. As the coach, your job is to sit and analyze and make them better. You screaming and yelling, that's not going to make the kid better at all. Not whatsoever. Pulling the kid off the field when they're either subbing out or sitting and resting, teaching them, giving them teachable moments to make themselves better. That's going to develop them better, versus saying, run harder, run faster. What do you do? Like, that's not what you want to do. So yeah, we've been preaching that in the game environment. Again, we're slowly getting there. It takes a while to do that. But yeah, that's something we do kind of embody and set the standard from that point going forward.
I'm sure you have to educate the parents as well.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It is because I know myself, when I used to coach, again, many years ago, when I was in my 20s, I used to bring a chair, and people used to say, why do you have a chair? Because I'm just here to sit and watch, just like you should be doing the same thing. I'm here to sit and watch. I will take notes. I will make adjustments when I need to be. And I used to actually have a few parents that used to, I think it's, again, the American culture. Some parents want to, harp on the referee or the official. That's not me. That's not who I am. And I had one parent many years ago. He came up to me and says, why aren't you getting on the referee? He's missing all these calls. And I said, no. He's watching the game. I'll have a conversation with him when the time is right. Me berating him in front of everyone is not going to benefit himself. It's not going to benefit me. It's not going to, it's actually not going to benefit you. I need to have a conversation at halftime or in between, I can have a conversation like that's something that things like that. And yeah, it's an ongoing thing for all of our clubs and all of our staff to educate families. And we're starting to do that a little bit more with putting out more social media pieces as well to kind of showcase that. Again, this environment we have now, more webinars. Again, it's been proven to be successful doing this on a quarterly basis, a 6-month basis, and we do actually educate. And actually, what some of our clubs do, I'll give kudos to our club in Arizona. They've created this idea of a ghost coach. And I've never heard of it before, but the ghost coach is essentially the parent. So if the coach tells the parents, this is what we're looking to accomplish, the player during the games, the ghost coach is essentially the parent. The parent is there observing, making notes, because they know what they're looking for, the objective for that player. So they're kind of being the ghost to be able to help their kid develop even further outside of the coach having to recorrect them and things like that. So it's a concept we're working on, trying to start sharing that nationally as well. We do have monthly coach calls that I kind of put together and lead with 100 coaches usually on it. So we're going to start sharing that message on our August call. So I'm kind of letting everybody know ahead of time. So our August call, we'll be doing the ghost coach kind of methodology and having the parents be involved as well, because that's how the kid will develop as well. If they know that coach isn't just watching, the ghost is watching, which is the parent, because they're now looking at certain things that they should be doing as well to develop on the field.
That's really interesting. It's nice when parents can be involved in a healthy, productive way. So that's great that they're coming up with that. All right, I have 2 more questions for you.
Sure.
And they're really, really challenging. What are you reading or listening to right now? I like to know what people are really into reading wise. I know you like to learn podcasts, books, Audible, whatever you want to share, but I really like to know what people are learning from and reading from and listening to, even if it's guilty pleasure and it's not a super business related thing.
Sure. Well, what I like to read anything related to sports or business. I'm just a junkie for that. I'm subscribed to so many sports newsletters, more on the back end management side of it. I find that exciting. I mean, I know Forbes this week came out with richest owners, and I don't know why I find that interesting. A book I read, it's in my backpack on my shoulder there. I was reading on my flight to New Mexico the other day. I got to get back on it. Was about Walt Disney, how he developed Disney. Again, I live 5-10 minutes from Disneyland. If you're familiar with Disneyland, when non-COVID, I could see the fireworks from just up down the street. You can see the fireworks.
That's cool.
So,
wow.
So I have that vantage point. Being a former past member, getting to see how they put on, the experience, the environment, right? So learning from Disney, and the one thing I learned about Walt Disney from reading the book was he obviously he's the very visionary and had the idea of for Disneyland and stuff like that. But he couldn't execute that himself. So he hired the right people to do that type of stuff, creating that culture for staff or for the cast members. They don't call them staff, they call them cast members. He needed someone else to develop that, but he had the idea and wanted it. So we had people that actually built that kind of philosophy. And the book I'm reading is Disney U. So it talks about, on stage and off stage. And I actually went through a training many years ago when I was in the hospitality industry of learning about good show and bad show and the difference between that and the education that comes with it as well. So it's not just scolding them, but it's teaching them how to become front facing and stuff like that. So those are kind of my guilty things. Listening, again, I usually listen to sports talk radio. Again, I'm a sports junkie. Sports is in my background. I got sports stuff on the wall here in my office. I got a baseball bat in the closet. So I'm a big sports guy. If you can't tell, I love it. I have multiple TVs in my backyard, all dedicated to sports. So it's like my man cave there. But yeah, that's something that I like to do. Is business and sports are 2 of my passion things I like to look at and listen to and read.
I love it. Well, if you keep your book recommendations coming, because I'm always looking for new things.
Will do.
My last question is, where can people go to find out more about AYSO United?
Sure, pretty simple and easy. www.aysounited.org. Check us out on social media as well. Also anyone that's listening, connect with me on LinkedIn. I do like to connect people on LinkedIn. I've had a lot of people ask for advice, and I try to do as much helping as I can. I have a wide range of a network in the sports industry. From being in a master's program, I got to learn from others just last weekend, I was in Las Vegas with one of my former classmates. He actually works in Las Vegas. He works for Michelob Ultra Arena, which is the Mandalay Bay sports arena. We got to go to the Vegas Knights game last week because he's got contacts with MGM. So it's like, you get to meet a lot of people in that environment. And again, it's the biggest thing I learned is being able to stay connected to people is important, especially in this last year and a half. Something that I've been pretty big on. So connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with us on aysunited.org, connect on social media. Social media is a representation of kind of who we are, and again, we're always looking for people to want to connect with us, and more than willing to help answer any questions if they want to have private conversations. More than willing to do that, as like me and Laura did a few weeks or multiple weeks ago. But always willing to connect with folks, and any way we can help each other out, because that's what it's all about right now. And as we come forward, it's helping each other, and yeah, that's kind of my last piece I want to leave there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. It was great to learn a little bit more about you and about AYSO United. And I'm sure the people who view this will feel the same. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great day.
James.
Thanks for listening.
Wow. Hope to connect soon.
Absolutely. We'll do. Appreciate it.
Bye.